What's up guys, Asian here again with another build video. Today we're going to be going over the two-handed stamina Nightblade build. So this two-handed stamina Nightblade is unique, kind of, among two-handed builds in the fact that it is not using Executioner as our sort of execute, so to speak. That's because stamina Nightblades have an execute already through the use of Killer's Blade. It's actually much stronger than Executioner, at least it's more consistent than Executioner, I should say. Executioner is going to be a little bit stronger once you get to the tail end, but Killer's Blade is just a flat increase of 300% damage once you get to 25% or lower. So even though technically Executioner can hit higher, Killer's Blade is going to be more consistent because it just is a flat increase compared to Executioner, which ends up scaling. So we're going to be using Killer's Blade as an execute rather than Executioner for that reason. So this makes it the only class that does actually not use Executioner as our execute, the other one being Stamina Templars, because Jabs is just really strong. We don't necessarily want to waste the Burning Light procs by basically not using Jabs anymore. So those two classes are the only ones that would not be using Executioner as their execute ability. Just like the rest of our build videos, this video will not be going over any gear. That is reserved for the two-handed gear video, which should be popping up in the upper right hand corner right around now. So if you are interested in knowing what gear I am running, I'd recommend pausing this video, go ahead and check out the two-handed gear video, and then come back here for the skills and the rotation. Let's go ahead and get started here with the front bar. So this is the two-handed bar, our skills. I already mentioned Killer's Blade. We're going to be using this. Then we have Wrecking Blow. This is going to be our main spammable. And then we also have a flex spot here with Ring of Preservation. So I have a fighter skilled ability here. Putting a fighter skilled ability will give you the best DPS increase. I like Ring of Preservation here for my flex spot because it gives me that minor protection and a heal if I need it. So pretty good for overall survivability. Definitely cannot be discounted at all. Then we have Relentless Focus, our bow proc. We have Barbed Trap for the minor force as well as additional weapon damage. And we have Incapacitating Strike here for the Reeve bonus. That really helps out our sustain. But it also has a cast time, so it's a little bit awkward to use on the back bar and then flip to the front bar. So we're just making it simple, keeping it simple, and just using it on the front bar. Then on the back bar, this has not changed between the dual wield build. So we still have Soul Trap run either morph, whichever one you'd like. So Consuming Trap would give you well, I should say, maintains the single target damage and gives you some sustain if you kill something that's affected by it. Soul Splitting Trap will give you more cleave damage, so you can pick whichever one is most necessary for your needs. Poison Injection, because we are using the Master's Bow. Arrow Barrage, you can also run Endless Hail instead. That'll give you some flexibility if you want to use the Maelstrom Bow. Then you have Barbed Trap here for minor force, as well as additional weapon damage. Dark Shade, even though it does deal magic damage, so it doesn't scale entirely off of our CPs, it does scale with our highest stats, so it is actually pretty decent in terms of DPS contribution, and also uses Magicka, so it helps out our sustain. Then you have Incapacitating Strike again for the assassination passives that we need for Hemorrhage, so we need this for the additional crit damage bonus. In terms of things you can put in this one flex spot, as well as any place where you see Barbed Trap, because you realistically only need Barbed Trap on one bar, so you can replace it on the back bar or the front bar, whichever one you prefer here. In terms of class abilities, not really anything here too useful. Mirage for survivability because it gives you major evasion and minor resolve, so that's pretty useful. A lot of attacks in dungeons and trials actually do fall under the AoE category, so major evasion actually helps out your survivability quite a bit. So if you're having trouble surviving, pick up Mirage. It's really, really great. Beyond that, not really much here. There is an argument to be made for Ambush if you want to apply minor vulnerability, but it usually would be better to put it on like a Nightblade tank instead. And they'd be using Lotus Fan for AoE minor vulnerability in that instance, so not really much reason to run Ambush at all. Nothing really under the Shadow line, and then nothing under the Siphoning line either to run too much. Now, there is an argument to be said for running Soul Siphon or Bolstering Darkness, which are the two ultimates here for the Siphoning and Shadow skill lines respectively. You'd be running this on the front bar rather than the back bar, but these would basically be mostly used for the utility that they provide. So Bolstering Darkness provides the major protection, so it gives you a lot of additional survivability, and you get a additional heal over time synergy when you use it. And Soul Siphon is just for the raw healing that it provides. So remember that ultimates do scale off of your highest stat. So that's why Soul Siphon on a Stam Nightblade might actually be pretty good for progression because your weapon damage is going to be pretty high. So that ends up giving you pretty high coefficients, high tooltips on your ultimate abilities here. So you can see here that the healing you get is actually pretty substantial, even though we're not spec'd as a healer. In terms of two-handed abilities here, I do want to point out using Brawler as a spammable in place of Wrecking Blow in trash fights is actually pretty normal for a lot of two-handed builds. This is because Brawler is a conal, so you can hit multiple targets with it, plus you get a damage shield with everything you hit. So if you manage to hit 6 enemies, you get a damage shield increase of 300%. Basically quadruples the strength of the shield you get. So you're sitting at a little bit over 18,000 damage shield. So you basically doubled your health in trash pulls if you're running Brawler. So really, really nice here. You could run Carve, which gives you a little bit of a bleed bonus, but because it's a spammable, you're not really going to make much use of the bleed, and even in sort of single target fights, that bleed's really weak, so it's not really worth running Carve at all. Just stick with Brawler instead. Since Stamina Nightblades have a native source of major evasion through a Mirage, it's not really necessary to run evasion at all, so you can kind of skip through that. Fighter's Guild line, if you don't want to run Ring of Preservation here, the two other Fighter's Guild abilities you can run are Silver Leash, which helps pull things in. Just work it out with your tank, because obviously not all tanks are going to want you to pull things. And then Camouflage Hunter. Camouflage Hunter is useful because it gives you Minor Berserk for 5 seconds after you do critical damage from an enemy's flank. That's 2 seconds here, and that's just because it is only the level 1 version. At level 4, you will get 5 seconds duration of Minor Berserk. So for a lot of fights, you actually will be behind the enemy or on the enemy's side, so you'll be able to get the Minor Berserk bonus going. So that does give you a little bit of independence, so to speak, from your healers, who will normally be providing Minor Berserk through Comet Prayer instead. So that is something to consider if you don't need the heal and mitigation from Ring of Preservation. Finally, if you just want raw healing, then you can run Echoing Vigor. There is an argument to be said for Resolving Vigor if you're the only Stamina DPS in the group, but Echoing Vigor does stack with other sources of Echoing Vigor. So if you have multiple Stamina DPS and you're all able to hit each other with Echoing Vigors, you can get multiple ticks going, which usually ends up giving you higher healing done per second compared to just running Resolving Vigor on everybody. Even if you're the only Stamina DPS in group, there's still an argument to be said for running Echoing Vigor because it does provide healing for everybody else around you as well, so that can be potentially useful as well. But that's pretty much all the abilities here that you could run in a Stamina Nightblade two-handed build. So now we get to talk about the rotation, the fun part. So Nightblades have this reputation for having a difficult rotation, mainly because of the bow proc here. The kind of idea behind a Nightblade rotation always centers around the bow proc. You basically want to get as many bow procs off as many bow procs as you can off of one activation of Relentless Focus or Merciless Resolve as a Magic Nightblade. So you have 60 seconds here with Relentless Focus. Takes 5 light attacks to get up 1 bow proc. So if you do the math here, 1 global cooldown is a little bit less than 1 second. So you should be able to, in theory, get about 12 bow procs per activation of Relentless Focus. So that's what you should be aiming for. Now, the stacks do carry over whenever you renew it, so it will end up being a little bit over that. So you might get 13, 14 bow procs potentially. But usually somewhere between 11 to 13 bow procs is what you should be shooting for with each activation of Relentless Focus. So that basically means the rotation is going to be dynamic. You will end up breaking your backbar rotation. What I mean by that is you will not be going through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You will have to do potentially 1, 2, 3, and then go to your front bar, use your bow proc, swap back to your back bar, and then do 4, 5. That's what I mean when I say you need to break your backbar rotation. So that pretty much makes this rotation a dynamic rotation. You can, of course, stick with a static rotation if you'd like, but you will end up losing a significant amount of DPS because you will not be getting as many bow procs going. So the thing with a static rotation is you basically ignore the bow proc if it activates while it's on your back bar. You just finish up whatever you're doing on your back bar, putting down all your dots, whatever, and then when you finally get back to your front bar, then you activate the bow proc. The downside of that is, as you can imagine, you're basically wasting light attacks on your back bar when you're weaving on your back bar that could be stored up to get another bow proc. So you can't save your stack. So if you decide to do 10 light attacks and then use your bow proc, you don't automatically get another bow proc because you did 10 light attacks. You basically start over again at 0. So you always want to get the bow proc off immediately. That way you can get more light attacks going to start to stack up towards your next bow proc. So an example of this here. And get a good example of this. Here's a good one. You're going to Brightwing back rotation here to do my bow proc. And then you saw me go to my back bar to finish off my cast of poison injection. Here's another good example of this. I have 4 abilities, but I need to break my back bar to get my bow proc off. Then I swap back to my back bar to finish up that rotation. So another thing that I see a lot of people who just start getting into Nightblades, this is a fairly common mistake that I see with bow procs. So a lot of people do something like this. Did you notice that? What I basically did there, I'm going to do it a little bit slower. Again, this is what I see a lot of people doing. So you saw there that I was basically sitting on a bow proc for that 5th cast of Wrecking Blow. Then I did a 6th light attack and then I fired off my bow. So I basically wasted that 6th light attack because that's not counting towards the next bow proc. What you should be doing instead is something like this. Again, I'll do it again a little bit slower so you guys can kind of see what's happening here. So you can see there, then when I get up to 4 stacks, what I do is I do light attack and then I immediately fire off the bow proc that procs because I did my 5th light attack. Can't do it a little bit, you have to be a little bit tricky with the timing because if you do it too fast you just end up rebuffing. You still get the bow proc but you rebuff rather than fire off the bow. But with proper timing, you basically get that bow proc off and you basically save that 6th light attack that we did earlier, which was kind of the incorrect way of doing your bow proc. So that's something you kind of have to get used to, and it's something that you also have to do when you're doing your back rotation as well. So here's an example of this. Then get another good example of this going here. Here's a good one. You can see here I am at 4, swapped my front bar, light attack 5, and then finish off my back bar rotation there. So instead of basically waiting until I get 5, swap my front bar, and then do the bow proc, I do 4. Once I have 4 stacks, I swap my front bar, light attack, bow proc, and then continue doing whatever I was doing. So that's quite a bit of a learning curve for Stamina Nightblades because you do have to pay attention to that bow proc going on. There are a few exceptions to this. So one of the exceptions that I usually make is if I go into my back rotation with 4 stacks, because when you go into your back bar, you typically do light attacks right into an ability. I usually, because if you start off with 4, so here's an example here. So let's say I'm starting off with 4 here. I usually just swap my back bar after I do my first light attack on my bow bar there, and that's just something that I've done, and it's very flexible. Technically not ideal, but it just makes it flow a little bit easier for me. And the other thing that I usually do is if I have an ultimate ready, so let's say I have 4 here, and my ultimate's ready. By the time I need to use my bow proc, actually wait. So let's say I have like 65 ultimate. The ultimate you're using in cap takes 70 ultimate to use. Let's say I'm at 65. I'll actually hold my bow proc until I can get my ultimate, use the ultimate, and then use the bow proc. And that's just so I can get the additional damage buff from the bow proc, because in cap does give the enemy a damage taken debuff, a unique one. So that's another instance where you might want to hold your bow proc just for a moment, just so you can get the extra damage from the in cap. That's pretty much everything about Stamina Nightblade rotation. I know it's quite a lot, it's very complex, but maybe showing you guys on a total million parse will kind of clear things up a little bit. We'll try to narrate throughout the parse here, and I do want to mention here that in order to maintain the validity of this parse, do not take this parse and compare it to somebody else. You can use this parse and compare it to parses that I have done on my channel, because I am the constant between all these different parses. Somebody else might be a better DPS than me, might be more comfortable with their rotation, might have a different rotation, might be a worse DPS than me, and that will kind of mess up the comparability between those two parses. So only use this parse to compare other builds that I have, so like a dual wield Stamina Nightblade build or other two-handed builds. Let's go ahead and get started. I will try to narrate throughout this parse here. That's an example of where I kind of break my rule a little bit of getting my bow proc off as quickly as I can, because I do want to have the extra damage from Incap going. Break my back bar rotation, get the bow proc off, and finish off with poison injection. Once we hit about 25% health remaining, we're going to basically drop all of our dots except for Barbed Trap, Poison Injection, and Arrow Barrage. And we'll go over that once we begin to execute again. Again, you saw there that rather than doing light attack bow proc, I waited to get my ultimate off with additional damage buff on my bow proc damage there. Pull off on the bow proc to get my ultimate off, so get the extra damage on it. Getting close to execute, so once we hit 25% health, we'll be dropping certain dots. So at this point, when we do our back bar, notice I did not renew Soul Trap or Shade. I'm not using my bow proc, and that's because we want to maximize all the Killer's Blade casts. We're only using Arrow Barrage, Poison Injection, Barbed Trap, and then obviously our ultimate Incapacitating Strike. That's so we can get some more Killer's Blade going here. Parse is actually pretty bad here. I don't think I have one saved up. I did end up crashing earlier, so I didn't save that parse that I could. Yeah, so this is a pretty bad parse overall. Oh, that's why. 48% on our Killer's Blades. Get to our 62.3 mean crit chance. Assassin Scourge, 58%. This is all just really bad crit RNG. Pretty much everything here is... Yeah, a lot of things here are below our normal crit chance. But really, it's that Killer's Blade that really killed our DPS here. 77.9k with this parse. You're just going to take my word for it because, again, I did crash. And I don't have this parse saved up, but I did manage to get an, I believe it was like an 81k parse, and that difference there is because of the crit chance here. So this is a pretty bad crit RNG here. 48% of our crits, Killer's Blade. That's really bad. So again, you're kind of at the mercy of crit RNG here, especially as a Nightblade here. But again, you're just going to take my word for it, but I have managed to hit upwards of like 80 to 81k with this build. This is actually a really ridiculously low build here. I will try to do another parse with better, more average crit RNG and try to post that probably in the description below as a screenshot. So this is kind of an anomaly. This is definitely on the very, very low end of what you're able to hit here. More realistically, you'd be able to hit somewhere between 80 and 81k. Again, I'll try to do another parse with more average crit RNG and post that in the description below. But that concludes this build video. Hopefully you guys found this informative. If you guys have any questions about the build, please feel free to down in the comment section below, and I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next dungeon.